Now, let's snuggle down and whisper a little about Hatshepsut, a queen who really shook things up in ancient Egypt. Imagine, if you will, a world where women weren't exactly expected to rule, a world of chariots and scarabs and, frankly, a lot of very serious-looking beards. And into this world strides Hatshepsut, not just any queen, but the pharaoh. That's right, a woman at the very top of the Egyptian power pyramid, a situation about as unexpected as a sphinx wearing a party hat. Her story begins, as many grand stories do, with a bit of family drama. She was born a princess, the daughter of Thutmose I, a pharaoh who apparently had a thing for accumulating wives. Hatshepsut's mother isn't entirely clear in the historical record, a bit like trying to find a specific grain of sand on a very, very large beach. But what is clear is that Hatshepsut had a half-brother, Thutmose II, who eventually became pharaoh. And in a twist that would make even a soap opera writer proud, Hatshepsut married him. It was, you might say, a bit of a power play wrapped up in a marriage. Think of it as a very regal business merger. Now, Thutmose II, bless his cotton socks, wasn't exactly a picture of robust health. He had a rather short reign, and when he shuffled off this mortal coil, he left behind a young son, Thutmose III, who, being a toddler, wasn't exactly ready to rule the land of the pyramids. Enter Hatshepsut, stage left, with a perfectly legitimate claim to the throne. She was, after all, the wife of the late pharaoh, and perfectly capable of ruling in her stepson's place for a while. But there's a hint of intrigue here that whispers around history like the desert wind. See, Hatshepsut didn't just become regent, she declared herself pharaoh. She didn't just step into the role. Oh no, she fully embraced the regalia, the grandeur, the whole shebang. She commissioned colossal statues of herself, depicting her in the traditional pharaoh garb, a beard and all. You can almost imagine the artisans giggling nervously as they painstakingly attached that impressive, completely fake beard. A woman with a beard, quite the sight, wouldn't you agree? And this is where the whispers really start to get interesting. There's a man, Senenmut, a significant figure in Hatshepsut's court. He was her chief architect, tutor, and, according to some historians, possibly something more. Senenmut was clearly very close to Hatshepsut, and his influence during her reign is undeniable. Many depictions show them together, and some scholars interpret these images as suggesting a romantic relationship. Of course, others dismiss this as mere fanciful speculation, or even a clever misreading of courtly etiquette. Now, here's the thing about ancient Egyptian history. It's a puzzle box filled with intriguing fragments. We have magnificent tombs, incredible artistry, and surprisingly detailed records. But piecing it all together is like trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle in a sandstorm. We have glimpses, hints, suggestions, but no smoking gun. Did Senenmut and Hatshepsut share a forbidden love? Was their relationship purely professional and platonic? The truth, my dear listeners, is likely lost to the sands of time, a tantalizing secret whispered on the wind. What we do know is that Hatshepsut's reign was a period of significant prosperity and expansion for Egypt. She oversaw ambitious building projects, sent expeditions to the land of Punt, a mysterious land somewhere in the Horn of Africa, possibly present-day Somalia or Eritrea. The exact location remains a topic of scholarly debate, adding another layer of mystery to the narrative, and secured trade routes. She was a remarkably successful ruler, whether she had a secret lover or not. Consider, for a moment, the sheer audacity of it all. A woman, in a patriarchal society, not just claiming power but actively taking it, building her own monuments, and leaving her mark on history. Even if her relationship with Senenmut remains shrouded in mystery, Hatshepsut's story is a testament to ambition, resilience, and the enduring power of a strong will. And perhaps, just perhaps, a reminder that even within the most rigid social structures, love can bloom in the most unexpected places, even if the details remain elusive, adding to the charm and wonder of the narrative. And so, as we drift off to sleep tonight, we can let the mysteries of Hatshepsut and Senenmut linger in our minds, a gentle puzzle to ponder, a fascinating snippet of a faraway time, a perfectly peaceful and intriguing way to end our night. Sweet dreams. Now, let's snuggle into a particularly intriguing love story, one that wasn't just a royal romance, but a revolution painted onto temple walls and whispered on the wind across ancient Egypt. This is the tale of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, a couple whose love challenged everything the Egyptian world held sacred and quite possibly changed the course of art history in the process. Akhenaten, you see, wasn't your typical pharaoh. He was different. Let's just say he had a rather unconventional approach to things, starting with his appearance. Imagine a pharaoh with an elongated skull, a slender build, and a rather expressive belly. Artistic depictions of him make him look almost alien. And he was, in a way, an alien in his own kingdom. He wasn't content with the established pantheon of gods, with their many-headed monsters and intricate rituals. Oh no, Akhenaten had different ideas. He decided that the sun disk, Aten, was the only god worth worshipping. A single, shining deity, a bit like a giant, celestial spotlight illuminating the whole of Egypt. This radical shift in religious belief, a kind of ancient Egyptian monotheism, is what we call the Amarna period, a fascinating, if somewhat chaotic, chapter in Egyptian history. And at the heart of this upheaval was his magnificent queen, Nefertiti. Now, Nefertiti, what a woman! Her name, beautifully translated, means the beautiful one has come forth. And come forth she did, stepping into history with a grace and power that still captivates us today. Unlike many queens who faded into the background of royal records, Nefertiti was actively involved in Akhenaten's reign. She wasn't just his wife, she was his co-regent, his partner in this audacious religious revolution. We have depictions of her conducting state business, participating in rituals, and even, some scholars believe, possibly ruling in Akhenaten's later years. Their love story, as depicted in the art of the Amarna period, is nothing short of breathtaking. Forget those stiff, formal portraits of pharaohs and queens from earlier dynasties. Akhenaten and Nefertiti's art is revolutionary, intimate, affectionate, and surprisingly modern. We see them embracing, playfully interacting, even holding their children in scenes that feel surprisingly tender for a time when royal depictions were usually all about power and authority. It's almost domestic. Imagine seeing a pharaoh casually cuddling his children in an official royal portrait. It would certainly raise a few eyebrows today, and it probably did back then, too. These weren't just pictures, they were statements. They were a visual declaration of their unconventional love, a love that defied the rigid social structures of their time. The royal family was portrayed as a loving, connected unit, radically different from the carefully controlled images of the previous dynasties. They were a family, but also a powerful symbol of their new faith. The intimate portrayals weren't just aesthetically pleasing. They were a powerful tool to communicate the new spiritual beliefs, suggesting a closer, more personal relationship between Aten and his worshippers. The artistic revolution wasn't limited to the royal family. The style itself changed dramatically during the Amarna period. Sculptures and paintings became more realistic, more emotional, and more human. The idealized, almost robotic figures of older Egyptian art gave way to more expressive, individualistic representations. Think of it as an ancient Egyptian artistic rebellion, fueled by a revolutionary love story. But even the most revolutionary romances face challenges. While we don't have a definitive answer to what happened to Nefertiti, some historians suggest she may have even taken over after Akhenaten's death, a truly remarkable feat for a woman in ancient Egypt. Or perhaps she simply faded from the historical record, her story gradually swallowed by the sands of time. Her disappearance adds a layer of mystery to this already captivating love story, leaving us to wonder about the inner workings of this powerful couple's lives. However their story ended, the impact of Akhenaten and Nefertiti's reign remains undeniable. Their revolutionary romance reshaped Egyptian religion, art, and even, some historians believe, the way we understand royal power dynamics. They dared to break with tradition, to challenge the established order, and in doing so, created a unique and unforgettable chapter in history, a testament to the enduring power of love, art, and a very, very unconventional pharaoh. And that, my friends, is a story well worth drifting off to sleep to. Sweet dreams. Now, let's turn our attention to a truly captivating mystery, one shrouded in the sands of time and whispered about in hushed tones even amongst the ancient Egyptians themselves: the death of Nefertiti. Nefertiti, the great royal wife of Ramesses II, a woman whose beauty was legendary, whose influence was undeniable, and whose tomb, even today, is a breathtaking testament to her status. But what of her end? How did this powerful queen, this celebrated wife, meet her maker? Well, my friends, that's where things get delightfully, intriguingly murky. Officially, Nefertiti died of natural causes. The records, such as they are, suggest an illness, perhaps a lingering ailment that finally took its toll. And certainly, even queens don't live forever. But the very notion of a natural death for a figure as prominent as Nefertiti, in a world as cutthroat as ancient Egypt, feels incomplete. It's like finishing a delicious cake only to find the last bite is suspiciously bland. You see, the reign of Ramesses II was, to put it mildly, a bit of a soap opera. He was a prolific father, leaving behind a bewildering number of children, most of whom were vying for power, even while their father was still alive. And then there's the matter of his wives. While Nefertiti enjoyed a favored position, she wasn't his only wife. Ramesses II was a man who liked to keep his options open, a veritable sultan of the Nile, and numerous other queens, princesses, and concubines shared his affections and undoubtedly his attention. This is not exactly the recipe for family harmony, even by royal standards. Now, imagine the scene: a vast, opulent palace, teeming with courtiers, servants, and relatives, all jostling for power and position. Each whispers, each glance, each seemingly innocent exchange laced with ambition, rivalry, and perhaps even outright malice. Into this heady brew, you have Nefertiti, the great royal wife, her health failing, her influence perhaps waning as younger, more vibrant women capture the pharaoh's attention. Was she, then, a victim of political intrigue? Did some ambitious rival, perhaps another queen, or even one of Ramesses' many sons, see Nefertiti's failing health as an opportunity to eliminate a powerful opponent? Perhaps a carefully administered poison, disguised as medicine or slipped into her wine. After all, accidental wine poisoning was not unheard of in those times. A slow, agonizing demise, hidden beneath the veneer of natural causes. It's certainly a compelling narrative, isn't it? Of course, we have no concrete evidence to support such a dramatic theory. No smoking gun, no damning confession, just the whispers of history and the vast, unknowable silence of the past. Still, the fact remains: Nefertiti's death coincided with a period of considerable political instability within the royal court. And even if there was no foul play involved, the possibility remains a tantalizing one. Then there's the question of heartbreak. Imagine, if you will, a woman accustomed to the adulation of a king, his unwavering devotion, perhaps even his exclusive love, at least for a time. Now, picture the same woman, watching as his attention shifts, his affections wander, his heart perhaps entirely elsewhere. The slow, agonizing decline of her status, coupled with the knowledge that the man she loved might be growing distant. Was Nefertari's death, then, a combination of factors? The stresses of court life, the physical decline of old age, perhaps a slow poisoning of the soul through loss of love and power? Did the weight of her position, the machinations of her rivals, and the emotional toll of a waning relationship finally bring her down? It's a chilling thought, a human tale woven within the opulent tapestry of Egyptian royalty. The mystery of Nefertari's death serves as a poignant reminder that even the most powerful and celebrated individuals are not immune to the frailties of life, the complexities of human relationships, and the insidious nature of political intrigue. As we delve into the fascinating and often murky world of ancient Egyptian royalty, it's stories like hers, with their layers of mystery and unanswered questions, that remind us that history is not just a collection of facts and dates, but also a collection of human stories filled with love, loss, ambition, betrayal, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, let the image of Nefertari's magnificent tomb, a testament to her life and power, accompany your dreams. And let the unanswered questions surrounding her demise serve as a gentle reminder that even in the seemingly immutable world of pharaohs and queens, there remains an element of enigma, an alluring whisper of the unknown, a final, captivating chapter yet to be fully written. Good night. Now, let's settle in and talk about Ramses II. Oh, Ramses. Where do we even begin? He's practically the poster boy for Pharaoh with a lot going on, and a significant chunk of that going on involved his, shall we say, extensive family. We're talking not just a wife or two, my friends, but a veritable harem of women. And children? Well, let's just say he contributed significantly to the population of ancient Egypt. Historians are still trying to untangle the family tree, and it's a bit like trying to unravel a particularly stubborn ball of yarn. You think you've got a loose end, and then whoosh, another tangle appears. Ramses II wasn't exactly known for his romantic monogamy. He had a great royal wife, Nefertari, of course. Her name often pops up in the archaeological record, and you'll find her beautiful, serene face gazing at you from countless tomb paintings. She seemed to hold a special place in his heart, though whether that means he was particularly faithful to her is another matter entirely. Perhaps he was a bit like a modern-day politician, all smiles and charming words to each of his spouses, all while deftly managing the intricate web of relationships. Imagine the dinner parties. The official record, meticulously carved onto temple walls and papyrus scrolls, reveals at least 2 great royal wives, alongside many secondary wives and concubines. Think of it like this: a royal family Christmas dinner, but with maybe 100 or so more people. And instead of awkward uncles asking about your love life, you have powerful advisors and ambitious relatives all vying for their children's favor. It's fascinating, isn't it? This blend of the magnificent and the rather chaotic? This vast network of women wasn't just for personal pleasure, though that certainly played a role. Having many wives was a crucial part of maintaining power and alliances. Each wife often came from a powerful family, and their connections ensured political stability and boosted Ramses' influence. So, each marriage was a strategic move, a diplomatic chess piece carefully positioned on the board of ancient Egyptian politics. It was, to put it mildly, a very complicated Game of Thrones, long before that show even existed. And then there were the children. Oh, the children. The sheer number is staggering. Estimates range into the hundreds. We're not just talking about the occasional princess or prince here. This was a veritable royal nursery overflowing with heirs and heiresses. Imagine the nannies. The sheer logistical challenge of raising that many children within the confines of a royal palace must have been monumental. I bet they had a royal schedule for nap time. It's easy to think of these women as simply passive figures in Ramses' life, mere ornaments to his power. But many of them held significant influence and achieved impressive things in their own right. Some oversaw their own estates, while others had prominent roles in religious ceremonies. Many were buried with great pomp and circumstance, showing that these women, while certainly part of Ramses's elaborate network of power, also possessed a certain agency within that structure. Considering all this gives us a glimpse into a very different way of life, doesn't it? A life far removed from our modern notions of monogamy and family structure. And it invites us to think about power dynamics in a way that's both fascinating and rather perplexing. Just imagine the potential for drama, for intrigue, for sibling rivalries that made Game of Thrones look like a tea party. The complexities of Ramses II's family life are still being uncovered today. New archaeological discoveries and improved understanding of ancient Egyptian texts continually add to the story, slowly unraveling this historical Gordian knot. Each new piece of information helps us paint a richer, more nuanced picture of a ruler and his exceptionally large and undeniably complex family. The sheer scale of it all, the sheer number of wives, children, and the potential for conflict and intrigue within the royal family makes the story of Ramses II and his relationships a captivating, almost unbelievable account of ancient life. And as we drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps you can conjure up images of this bustling, intricate royal household, a world both captivating and strange in its difference from our own. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find it a little easier to fall asleep than if you were trying to untangle the Ramses II family tree. Sweet dreams. Now, let's delve into a rather fascinating and slightly soapy aspect of ancient Egyptian royal life: sibling rivalry. Imagine, if you will, a family gathering, but instead of awkward uncle jokes, you have potential power struggles, romantic entanglements, and the occasional, let's just say things got dramatic. The royal family wasn't just a group of people related by blood. It was a pressure cooker of ambition, inheritance, and, yes, love, or something resembling it, depending on how you view royal marriages back then. Sibling rivalry in ancient Egypt wasn't just about squabbling over who got the last piece of date cake, though I imagine that happened too. It was a full-blown battle for the throne, often involving alliances, betrayals, and enough intrigue to keep 1,000 historians busy for centuries. Think of it as a very, very long-running reality TV show, only with far more serious consequences. We're not talking about a little playful shoving here. We're talking about potential assassinations, power grabs, and the complete reshaping of the royal court, all in the name of becoming pharaoh. One of the most well-known examples of this, or at least one of the best documented, involves the family of Akhenaten, that fascinating and somewhat controversial pharaoh who tried to introduce a new religion worshipping the sun disk, Aten. His children, especially his daughters, were prominently featured in royal artwork and imagery, which gives us a rare glimpse into their lives, albeit a carefully curated one. We know from these depictions that the family dynamic wasn't exactly harmonious. Now, Akhenaten's marriage to Nefertiti is often portrayed as a loving partnership, and perhaps it was, in its own way. But imagine growing up in that environment, with the weight of an entire kingdom resting on your family's shoulders. There's your father, obsessed with his new religion and shaking up the entire status quo. Your mother, the queen, a powerful figure in her own right, navigating the complexities of court life. And then there are you and your siblings, all vying for position, influence, and ultimately, a chance to rule. There are theories, and we have to remember these are theories, based on limited evidence, that suggest that the intense focus on Akhenaten and Nefertiti's daughters may have been a way to solidify their claims to the throne, or at least to position them for future influence. Perhaps they were being groomed for future power, a way to bypass the traditional male succession. It adds a layer of intrigue to those beautiful, yet slightly unnerving, royal portraits. The evidence is fragmented, the story is incomplete, but it paints a picture of a family striving for stability and power amidst religious upheaval. Their situation reminds us that even within the grand narratives of powerful empires, family dynamics played a vital role in the shaping of history. Let's look at another royal family. This time, we'll move a bit later in Egyptian history. The Ptolemaic dynasty, descendants of one of Alexander the Great's generals, brought a new flavor of sibling rivalry to the Egyptian throne. They seemed to take sibling rivalry to an entirely new level, with plots and counterplots that would make a Shakespearean tragedy seem tame by comparison. Cleopatra VII, perhaps the most famous of the Ptolemaic queens, was involved in several significant power struggles with her family members. Her relationship with her brothers, initially co-regents and later rivals, was a constant source of political turmoil. It wasn't simply about inheriting the throne. Their conflicts often revolved around alliances with Roman figures and maintaining Egypt's independence against the growing influence of Rome. Imagine the pressure, the weight of an entire kingdom on your shoulders, coupled with the constant threat of assassination or betrayal by your own siblings. It's a recipe for chaos, and the Ptolemaic dynasty delivered on that promise, with palace coups and familial backstabbing becoming almost commonplace. Their stories are not as neatly depicted as the Amarna period, but they echo with the same underlying themes: ambition, lust for power, and the complicated bonds between siblings vying for the ultimate prize. These power struggles weren't just confined to the throne room, though. They bled into every aspect of royal life, shaping alliances, determining foreign policy, and influencing cultural production. Think of the artists and artisans who lived and worked in these royal courts. They would have been intimately aware of the shifting dynamics of power, and their work may subtly reflect these underlying tensions. We can't know for certain the inner workings of these royal families, but piecing together their stories from fragmented evidence, from ancient inscriptions to artistic representations, allows us to glimpse into a world of intense personal and political struggles. It's a reminder that even the most powerful people in history were subject to the same human emotions, albeit on a grander and decidedly more dangerous scale. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, consider the intriguing lives of these ancient Egyptian siblings, locked in their very own dramatic family saga, fought not with toys, but for a kingdom. Sweet dreams. Now, let's snuggle down and delve into the fascinating story of Queen Tai, a woman who truly shook up the ancient Egyptian world. She wasn't just any queen. Oh no, Tai was a force of nature, a woman whose influence rippled through the very fabric of the pharaoh's court. And more importantly for our bedtime history, his love life. Imagine, if you will, a world of shimmering gold, towering obelisks, and the constant hum of ancient rituals. This was the world of Amenhotep III, a pharaoh known for his lavish lifestyle, and, let's be honest, his rather extensive harem. But even amidst all that opulent splendor, one woman stood out: Queen Tai. We don't have a whole lot of juicy gossip about exactly how Tai managed to capture the pharaoh's heart. Ancient Egyptian records are notoriously coy on the subject of royal romances, often opting for carefully crafted images of blissful marital harmony rather than the more tempestuous realities. But judging by the sheer number of monuments, statues, and even tiny little trinkets dedicated to her, it's pretty safe to say that Amenhotep III was utterly smitten. And this wasn't just a case of a pretty face and a winning smile. Oh no, Tai was a woman of remarkable intelligence and political acumen. She wasn't content to simply be a decorative queen, presiding over elaborate ceremonies and looking regal. Instead, she actively participated in the affairs of state, advising her husband, negotiating treaties, probably with a perfectly sculpted eyebrow raised throughout, and even influencing his choice of powerful advisors. In short, she was a serious power player in a time when women were rarely afforded such influence. Now, the thing that makes Tai's story particularly interesting for us, for our cozy bedtime history, is how she seems to have masterfully navigated the complex web of courtly relationships and potentially romantic entanglements. Remember that extensive harem I mentioned? Well, while Amenhotep III certainly maintained it, Tai's own influence was so pervasive that it almost seems to have subtly shaped the dynamic within it. Some historians suggest that Tai, with her quiet but firm authority, might have chosen some of the women who filled the royal harem. Perhaps she carefully selected women who would not directly threaten her position, not through outright jealousy, but through a system of subtle power plays and alliances. It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? A queen not just tolerating the royal harem, but potentially subtly curating it to her own advantage. It certainly adds a layer of intriguing complexity to the traditional image of the ancient Egyptian queen. Think of it like this. Imagine a well-orchestrated game of chess, where Tai is the grandmaster, skillfully maneuvering the pieces, in this case, the women within the harem, to maintain her own strong position and secure her power. It's much more intriguing than just a simple tale of jealousy and intrigue, wouldn't you say? And the sheer amount of artistic representations dedicated to her speaks volumes. Unlike many queens, Tai isn't simply depicted as a passive figure standing beside her husband. Instead, she's shown alongside him in scenes of royal authority, often positioned with an air of equal status, a visual representation of her power and influence. Statues, reliefs, and even personal items, like exquisitely crafted jewelry, demonstrate a level of devotion and commemoration rarely seen for any other royal woman of her time. Her influence even extended beyond the immediate royal family. Letters and diplomatic records suggest that Tai corresponded directly with foreign rulers, engaging in political negotiations and cementing alliances on behalf of Egypt. This wasn't the reserved, demure queen confined to palace walls. This was a woman actively shaping the destiny of a nation. Her son, Akhenaten, inherited some of her remarkable force of personality, though he took it in a very different and ultimately quite dramatic direction. But that's a story for another night, another cozy bedtime history. For now, let's just appreciate the quiet strength and subtle power of Queen Tai, a woman who cleverly navigated the complexities of royal life in ancient Egypt, leaving behind a legacy that whispers to us even today, a testament to her remarkable life and influence on the pharaoh's decisions, and perhaps even his love life. Now close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift off to sleep, thinking of the fascinating Queen Tai. Good night. Now, wouldn't it be wonderfully gossipy if we could eavesdrop on the private conversations of ancient Egyptian royalty? Well, to a surprisingly delightful extent, we can. Forget grand pronouncements carved on temple walls. We're talking about the hidden love letters of ancient Egypt, tiny, intimate glimpses into the personal lives and affections of pharaohs, queens, and even some surprisingly romantic servants. These aren't the booming declarations of power you might expect from a ruler. Oh no. These are whispered secrets, pinned on scraps of papyrus, sometimes tucked away in a forgotten corner of a tomb, sometimes miraculously preserved within a sealed jar. Imagine, if you will, a bustling palace in Thebes. The sun beats down on the whitewashed walls, the air thick with the scent of incense, and something faintly floral. Somewhere within those labyrinthine corridors, a royal scribe, perhaps a young man with ink-stained fingers and a mischievous twinkle in his eye, is carefully crafting a message. Not an official decree, mind you, but a tender note, perhaps for a queen known for her sharp wit and even sharper tongue, or maybe for a favorite concubine, whose laughter echoes through the moonlit gardens. These weren't always love letters in the romantic sense, you understand. Sometimes they were expressions of longing. A pharaoh writing to his beloved queen, perhaps stationed far away overseeing a construction project and possibly complaining about the quality of the dates. Other times, they were declarations of devotion, almost comically over the top in their enthusiasm. Think of them as the ancient Egyptian equivalent of a particularly flowery Valentine's Day card, only with a slightly more permanent ink. One of the most fascinating aspects of these hidden missives is the sheer variety of materials they were written on. We're not just talking about pristine sheets of papyrus, carefully prepared and rolled up. Oh no, these love notes were scribbled on ostraca, broken pieces of pottery, the ancient equivalent of a hastily jotted down grocery list. Imagine the queen herself, impatiently scratching a message onto a shard of pottery with a charcoal stick, maybe while waiting for her favorite chariot driver. And the content? Oh, the delightful content. We find everything from passionate declarations of love, "Your beauty eclipses the sun," to rather practical requests, "Please send more linen. The winter nights are terribly chilly." Some letters hint at subtle rivalries within the court, with subtle digs at competing factions or rivals for the pharaoh's affections. One particularly juicy letter, if we can believe the translation, and let's be honest, translating ancient Egyptian is a bit like trying to assemble flat-pack furniture without instructions, hinted at a clandestine affair involving a high-ranking official and a priestess. Scandal. Think of the scene, a shadowy figure, cloaked in darkness, slipping a tiny rolled-up papyrus into the hand of a trusted servant. The message, written in elegant hieroglyphs or hurried cursive, is passed from hand to hand until it reaches its intended recipient. The thrill of the clandestine, the secret shared in the dead of night. It's a far cry from the formal pronouncements we usually associate with ancient Egyptian royalty. But finding these letters wasn't always easy. Archaeologists often stumble upon them quite by accident. A shard of pottery hidden beneath a pile of funerary goods, a papyrus scroll tucked inside a royal coffin, seemingly overlooked by tomb robbers. The fragility of the material makes them incredibly delicate. The intense heat and humidity of the Egyptian climate and the ravages of time have conspired to leave only fragments of many messages. It's a frustrating treasure hunt, but each little scrap provides a glimpse of a richer, more human past. These hidden love letters challenge the austere image often presented of ancient Egypt. They show us a world of personal feelings, of longing, of jealousy, and of genuine affection, a world not entirely defined by power and pharaonic grandeur. They humanize the figures we usually see as remote and almost mythical. We see them not as symbols of divine authority, but as flawed, emotional beings who experienced the same joys and sorrows as we do today. They loved, they lost, they hoped, and they perhaps, just perhaps, even grumbled about their in-laws, just like us. The remarkable preservation of these little scraps of papyrus and pottery isn't just a testament to the skill of ancient Egyptian artisans, but also to the enduring power of human emotion. These tiny fragments whisper to us across millennia, reminding us that even in the heart of a powerful empire, love, longing, and a good dose of palace intrigue played a significant role in shaping the lives of its people. And it's that beautifully human element that makes their stories so captivating, so strangely comforting, and just perfect for a peaceful night's sleep. So drift off now, knowing that even pharaohs had their share of romantic dramas, and perhaps even a little bit of embarrassing handwritten correspondence hidden away in a dusty corner of their tomb. Sweet dreams. Now, let's settle in and talk about something truly fascinating: the seemingly idyllic, yet often incredibly complicated, world of royal marriages in ancient Egypt. We often picture these unions as passionate love affairs, perhaps even a bit like something out of a romantic novel. But the reality, my friends, was usually a far cry from that charming image. Think of it more like a very high-stakes game of chess, played with people instead of pieces. These weren't simply matters of the heart. They were meticulously crafted political alliances, disguised, sometimes quite convincingly, as love matches. The pharaoh, as the supreme ruler, had a significant responsibility in ensuring the continued prosperity and stability of his kingdom. And a key part of that involved choosing the right queen. It wasn't about finding someone with sparkling eyes and a winning smile, though those might have been bonuses, of course. It was about securing powerful partnerships, strengthening diplomatic ties, and ensuring the smooth succession of power. Imagine the pressure. The pharaoh, potentially saddled with immense responsibility from a very young age, had to weigh the political implications of every potential marriage. Was this princess from a neighboring kingdom strong enough to help solidify the border? Did that alliance offer economic benefits, access to valuable resources, or military support? Perhaps a marriage could quell a brewing conflict, avoiding costly wars and bloodshed. It was a complex equation, involving far more variables than a simple love match. And then there were the consequences. A poorly chosen queen could unravel everything. A weak alliance, a sudden shift in power dynamics, or even just a personality clash could destabilize the entire kingdom. History is littered with examples of royal marriages that didn't quite go according to plan. Think of the potential for internal conflicts, power struggles within the court, and the ripple effect on the everyday lives of the Egyptian people. One might think that, with all this careful calculation, romance would be a distant second. But that's not entirely true. We have evidence that genuine affection, even love, could exist within these strategic partnerships. Pharaohs and queens did, occasionally, genuinely connect. Royal inscriptions sometimes hint at affection, loyalty, and even shared humor. However, even in those cases, the political realities always lingered in the background, like a persistent shadow. A queen, even one deeply loved by her husband, could still find herself a pawn in a larger game, her actions and influence constantly scrutinized for potential threats or advantages. Consider, for instance, the situation of a pharaoh facing succession issues. The choice of queen wasn't simply about the wife. It was about the future pharaoh. The sons of the queen held a unique position, holding a claim to the throne almost by birthright. This naturally led to intense rivalry, often spilling over into the courts and creating an atmosphere of fierce competition, where alliances and betrayals were commonplace. Sometimes, it was the queens themselves who held the key to power. A clever queen, politically astute and charismatic, could wield considerable influence even over her husband's policies, maneuvering the situation to benefit her family and loyal supporters. History records queens who acted as powerful regents, holding the reins of power when their sons were too young to rule, effectively becoming the rulers of Egypt. In a society that often privileged male lineage, these women carved out impressive power bases, transforming their political leverage into true leadership. These royal marriages were far from straightforward fairy tales. They were complex webs of political intrigue, family drama, and sometimes genuine affection. They highlight the intricate balance between personal desires and the demands of statecraft in a civilization that thrived on the power of its rulers, yet was shaped by the forces of alliance, rivalry, and the enduring legacy of their choices. The consequences of these carefully orchestrated alliances rippled through generations, influencing the course of history and shaping the fate of a civilization. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, remember the subtle dramas that played out behind the gilded facades of ancient Egypt's royal court, a world of love, ambition, and the ever-present weight of political strategy. Sweet dreams. Now, let's peek behind the gilded curtains of ancient Egyptian royalty, shall we? We've talked about the grand wives, the official queens, the ones with all the titles and the impressive tombs. But pharaohs, bless their cotton socks, weren't always satisfied with just one official partner. Oh no, the drama in ancient Egypt often involved a whole cast of characters, and that brings us to the fascinating, slightly scandalous world of the pharaoh's unofficial consorts. Imagine the vast palace, bustling with servants, scribes, and of course, a whole harem of women, not all of whom held official titles. These women, often beautiful and intelligent, held a unique position in the royal court. Some might have been chosen for their lineage, offering political alliances or strengthening the pharaoh's ties to powerful families. Others might have simply caught the pharaoh's eye. Perhaps they possessed a captivating smile, a witty remark, or a truly exceptional talent for making perfectly fluffy bread. Who knows? Ancient Egyptian historians weren't always big on the juicy gossip. The thing is, these unofficial relationships, while certainly not always recognized publicly, could have a profound impact, not just on the pharaoh's personal life, naturally, but also on the very future of the kingdom. Think about it. A pharaoh deeply involved with a particular consort might favor her children, giving them preferential treatment, better education, or even subtly positioning them for future power. Now, this didn't always go down smoothly. The official queen, secure in her position, at least in theory, might have some rather strong feelings about this. Palace intrigue is a delightful understatement. We don't have a lot of explicitly detailed records about the lives of these unofficial consorts. It's like trying to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing and a few extra pieces that don't seem to fit anywhere. Ancient Egyptian records often focused on the official narratives, the grand pronouncements, the triumphant battles, the quiet whispers of the palace, the hidden romances. Those were less likely to make it into the official historical accounts. However, we can glean clues from tomb inscriptions, from the placement of certain individuals within royal burials, and even from the artistic representations we find on temple walls. Sometimes, a subtle detail, a less prominent depiction in a fresco, might hint at a favored consort, a child possibly out of wedlock, a relationship that sat just outside the strict lines of official royal record-keeping. It's a bit like detective work, piecing together fragments of information to create a fuller picture. And trust me, the picture is far more colorful and compelling than the official accounts would suggest. For example, imagine the subtle power struggles. A queen, secure in her position as great royal wife, might find her influence challenged by a pharaoh's favored concubine who bears him a son. This could lead to intense competition for the pharaoh's attention, rivalries amongst children, and maneuvering for influence amongst courtiers. This isn't just about romantic entanglements. It's about power, succession, and the very stability of the kingdom. Think about the sheer stress of being a pharaoh, managing an entire kingdom, dealing with endless diplomatic issues, fighting off enemies, and potentially appeasing several powerful goddesses at the same time. A little distraction, a little affection from a beloved consort, might have been exactly what a pharaoh needed to unwind. Perhaps it's even possible that these unofficial relationships were a necessary element of keeping the powerful pharaohs happy and sane. It's a thought, isn't it? And let's not forget the human element. These were not just political pawns. They were women with hopes, dreams, fears, and undoubtedly their own complicated lives. They might have been influential advisors, skilled administrators, or simply beloved companions to the pharaoh. They might have exerted a calming influence on a powerful and potentially erratic leader, or even secretly guided his decisions. We might never fully know the extent of their influence. The stories of these unofficial consorts remain largely untold, lost in the shadows of official history. Yet, the faint traces we do find add a layer of intrigue and complexity to our understanding of ancient Egypt. They remind us that even the most powerful rulers were human, capable of love, lust, and all the messy, fascinating complexities of human relationships. And as we drift off to sleep, perhaps we can imagine those whispers in the palace, the secret smiles, the hidden dramas, the untold stories of the pharaoh's unofficial consorts. A gentle reminder that even in the grand sweep of history, love and power are inextricably intertwined, just as they are in our lives today. Sweet dreams. Now, let's turn our attention to a truly captivating figure, a woman who dared to challenge the rigid rules of ancient Egyptian society, Princess Meritaten. Her story, Oh, it's a delicious mix of royal intrigue, forbidden love, and a healthy dose of she did what. Imagine, if you will, a world where your family tree is basically a who's who of pharaohs, and your every move is meticulously documented for posterity. That was Meritaten's reality. She wasn't just any princess. She was the daughter of the famously powerful Akhenaten and Nefertiti, the royal couple who decided that the sun god Aten was the only god worth worshipping, leading to a pretty dramatic religious upheaval. So, right off the bat, we're talking about a family with a penchant for shaking things up. And Meritaten? Well, she inherited that rebellious spirit. Think of Meritaten as the ultimate cool aunt of ancient Egypt, except instead of knitting and baking cookies, she was involved in some seriously eyebrow-raising romantic entanglements. We know about this not from juicy gossip whispered in palace hallways, though I imagine there was plenty of that, but from meticulously carved tomb scenes and inscriptions, the ancient Egyptian equivalent of posting your relationship on social media. Only, this social media lasted for thousands of years. One of the things that makes Meritaten's story so fascinating is how much we actually know about her love life. Many royal women of the time are shadowy figures, barely mentioned in the historical record. But Meritaten? She's a bit of a social media star of the ancient world, her relationships documented in surprising detail. And what a relationship it was. She married her half-brother, Smenkhare, a move that might seem shocking to us, but was actually not unheard of among royal families seeking to maintain power. It was a kind of keeping it in the family strategy, albeit with a bit more sibling rivalry than most of us experience. Now, the details of their relationship are still debated by historians. Was it a genuine affection or a politically motivated union? Were they truly in love, or was it a marriage of convenience? We can only speculate, leaving room for our own imaginative interpretations. Perhaps it was a bit of both, a charmingly complex mixture of love and political maneuvering, perfectly reflecting the chaos and beauty of ancient Egypt. But here's where things get really interesting. After Smenkhare's death, and the circumstances surrounding his death remain a bit mysterious, adding another layer of intrigue to this already captivating story. Meritaten married another prominent figure, Tutankhaten, who later changed his name to Tutankhamun. Yep, that Tutankhamun, the boy king whose tomb was discovered relatively intact and sent the world into a frenzy. So, Meritaten went from one powerful man in her family to another, navigating the treacherous waters of royal politics with a certain audacious grace. Now, imagine the conversations around the royal dinner table. Picture the hushed whispers in the palace corridors. You can practically smell the incense, hear the clinking of goblets, and feel the weight of ancient Egyptian history pressing down on you as you contemplate her choices. What's particularly captivating is how Meritaten seems to have defied expectations. While many royal women were relegated to the role of silent partners in the great game of power, Meritaten appears to have actively shaped her destiny, choosing her lovers and influencing the political landscape. Was she a mastermind manipulator, or a woman who simply dared to choose her own path, regardless of the consequences? Historians are still debating this, making her story all the more captivating. And, of course, there's the question of her own power. Did she actively use her relationships to consolidate her own authority and influence? Did she simply react to the shifting sands of Egyptian royal politics? Or was it a subtle mix of both, a testament to a woman who was far more complex and resourceful than the historical narrative originally suggested? What we do know is that she had significant influence, as seen in official records and her prominent place in art. Her presence was substantial, her decisions impactful. Meritaten's story isn't just a tale of forbidden romance. It's a testament to a woman who lived a life far more fascinating and complicated than the simple labels we sometimes assign to historical figures. It's a reminder that even within the rigid structure of ancient Egyptian royalty, individuals could, and did, find ways to assert their individuality, to defy expectations, and to leave their mark on history in ways that are still being uncovered and debated today. So, as you drift off to sleep, remember the story of Meritaten, a princess who lived life on her own terms, even if those terms were a little bit scandalous. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's a rather comforting thought. Now, let's slip into the rather dramatic world of royal jealousy in ancient Egypt. Imagine a place where the sun beats down relentlessly, the Nile flows majestically, and the pharaoh, supposedly a god king, is embroiled in the most human of dramas, romantic rivalry. It wasn't just about who got the best dates. This was about power, succession, and quite literally, life and death. Because, my friends, in the ancient Egyptian court, a little jealousy could have truly catastrophic consequences. Think of it. You're a powerful noblewoman, perhaps even a princess, and you've caught the eye of the pharaoh. He's showering you with gifts, whispering sweet nothings, presumably in ancient Egyptian, which sounds rather lovely, I imagine, and you're basking in the glorious sunshine of royal favor. But then, another woman appears, perhaps a younger, more alluring noblewoman, or maybe a cunning advisor, whispering in the pharaoh's ear, subtly planting seeds of doubt, or even outright lies. Suddenly, your carefully constructed paradise is threatened by a whirlwind of intrigue. This wasn't just some petty squabble. This was a contest for influence, for power, for the very future of Egypt. The pharaoh's choice of consort wasn't simply a matter of personal preference. His wife or favorite would often have considerable influence over him, access to resources, and even a say in matters of state. This meant that royal romantic rivalries were never just personal. They were political landmines waiting to explode. Consider the potential consequences. If you felt slighted, if you felt your position threatened, what could you do? Well, in ancient Egypt, you had a few options, some more subtle than others. You could, for example, try to discredit your rival, spreading rumors, perhaps even forging letters or planting false evidence. Imagine the court gossip, the hushed whispers, the furtive glances of veritable drama unfolding in the opulent corridors of the palace. It must have been quite the soap opera, but if subtle machinations failed, you might have to resort to something more direct. In a society where power struggles were commonplace, assassination wasn't unheard of. After all, removing a rival could be viewed, from a certain perspective, as a service to the pharaoh and the nation. A rival trying to usurp power? A threat to the pharaoh's authority? A matter for removal. Of course, this wasn't always successful. Conspiracies could be uncovered, plots could unravel, and the schemer might find themselves facing the wrath of the pharaoh, or, perhaps even worse, the wrath of the wronged rival. This brings us to a delightful, if slightly morbid, detail. There's a certain delicious irony in the idea of someone being assassinated for trying to assassinate someone else in a royal love triangle. The sheer intricacy and layers of betrayal must have been astounding. Now, we don't have detailed accounts of every single romantic spat in ancient Egypt. Much of it remains lost to time, buried beneath the sands of ages, or perhaps locked away in hieroglyphs yet to be deciphered. But we do see evidence of the consequences, political upheavals, sudden changes in power, and even the mysterious disappearances of certain influential figures. Imagine the stress, the constant fear of betrayal, the pressure to maintain your position, the sheer exhaustion of navigating these perilous romantic relationships. It certainly wasn't all glamorous golden jewelry and sun-drenched palaces. We often picture ancient Egypt as a land of serene majesty, but the royal court, it seems, was anything but serene, at times a very cutthroat, indeed, a bloodthirsty place. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, consider the tangled webs of romance and power in ancient Egypt. Imagine the whispering servants, the scheming nobles, the ever-present threat of betrayal, and the pharaoh, caught in the middle of it all, perhaps wondering if he'd made the right choice after all. And remember, even a god king can fall victim to the chaotic whims of love, jealousy, and the very human desire for power. Sweet dreams, and may your own love triangles be far less deadly. Now, let's snuggle down a little deeper into our Egyptian blankets and explore something rather scandalous, wouldn't you say? Forbidden love. Ah, yes, the stuff of whispered secrets and moonlit rendezvous. But in ancient Egypt, where the pharaoh was considered a living god, forbidden love wasn't just a bit of a romantic hiccup. It could be a truly perilous game. Imagine, if you will, the rigid social hierarchy of ancient Egypt. It's like a very tall, very ornate wedding cake, with the pharaoh right at the top, glittering and glorious. Then, layer by layer, you have the nobility, the priests, the scribes, the artisans, and finally, at the very bottom, the common folk. Love, ideally, was supposed to stay neatly within its own layer, a little bit like those perfectly stacked, delicious-looking cake layers. But, of course, love, being the rebellious, headstrong thing it is, often had other ideas. Think about it. A powerful pharaoh, surrounded by stunning royal women, might find his gaze wandering towards someone unexpected. Perhaps a nimble-fingered servant girl, her laughter like the tinkling of anklets, or a clever scribe, whose words were as sharp and insightful as his wit. These were relationships that could shake the very foundations of the kingdom, a bit like a rogue crumb knocking over the entire cake. For a royal, defying social norms and falling for someone outside their prescribed circle carried immense risks. We're not just talking about a disapproving father figure here. We're talking about potential political upheaval, threats to the royal lineage, and, well, let's face it, the very real possibility of death. The pharaoh wasn't just a husband. He was a symbol of power, stability, and the divine right to rule. A scandalous affair could easily be interpreted as a weakness, a crack in the facade of absolute authority. And it wasn't only the pharaoh who risked their neck for love. Imagine a commoner, a humble farmer perhaps, swept away by the allure of a royal lady. The difference in their station was like a vast chasm, insurmountable. Even a simple conversation could land him in serious trouble. Betrayal of trust within the court was swiftly punished, and any perceived threat to the pharaoh's authority was dealt with decisively. The stories we have, gleaned from ancient papyri and tomb paintings, are often fragmented and tantalizingly incomplete. But the hints they offer are enough to fuel our imaginations. We might glimpse a hidden inscription, a cryptic poem, or perhaps a slightly too enthusiastic depiction of a royal woman with a less-than-royal companion in a fresco. These fragmented glimpses whisper of clandestine meetings, whispered promises under the desert stars, and the constant fear of discovery. The punishments could be brutal. Exile was one option, a lonely journey into the unforgiving desert, far from the comfort of the Nile. Imprisonment, with its grim uncertainty, was another. And, of course, there was always the ultimate sanction, death, swift and final, a sudden end to a forbidden love story. But even with these dangers lurking like shadows, love found a way. The human heart, it seems, isn't easily deterred, even by the threat of death. Think of the countless untold stories. The servant who risked everything for a stolen kiss. The noblewoman who defied her family to be with her beloved. The pharaoh who dared to choose love over duty. These clandestine relationships weren't just acts of rebellion. They were testaments to the enduring power of human connection, a reminder that even amidst the rigid structures of power and authority, the yearning for love transcends social barriers. And perhaps, that's what makes these forbidden romances so captivating even today. The bravery, the risk, the unwavering passion in the face of overwhelming odds. So, as we drift off to sleep tonight, let's remember these stories of daring love in the shadow of the pyramids, a reminder that even in a world ruled by gods and pharaohs, the human heart always finds a way to beat to its own rhythm. Sweet dreams. Now, let's peek behind the gilded curtains of the ancient Egyptian royal court and meet the people who, while rarely mentioned in the grand narratives, often played crucial, sometimes hilarious, roles in the unfolding dramas of royal love. I'm talking, of course, about the servants. Forget the sweeping romantic imagery for a moment. Let's consider the less glamorous but equally important reality. Servants were everywhere, and they saw and heard everything. Imagine, if you will, a bustling palace. Sunlight streams through intricately carved windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The scent of incense and something vaguely floral, possibly a little gamey, hangs in the air. Pharaoh is, shall we say, occupied with a particularly captivating lady-in-waiting, perhaps whispering sweet nothings or plotting the demise of a rival. But all around them, bustling quietly about their duties, are the servants, the linen changers, the sandal-bearers, the cup-bearers. Each a silent observer, potentially a key player in a developing royal romance. These weren't just faceless cogs in the royal machine. They were individuals with their own hopes, fears, and, let's be honest, probably a healthy dose of gossip. They saw the hidden gifts exchanged, overheard hushed conversations conducted late at night, and were often the silent messengers of love notes, perhaps even arranging clandestine meetings. Think of them as the original royal gossip columnists, except their articles were whispered secrets and carefully placed trinkets. Consider, for instance, the role of a trusted eunuch. Often held in high regard for their loyalty and discretion, they occupied positions of influence, privy to information that would make even today's tabloid editors envious. They could easily become a confidant, a go-between in a forbidden romance, or even, and this is where it gets fascinating, an unwitting participant in a royal love triangle. A misplaced item, a strategically delivered message, a slightly too knowing smile. The possibilities are endless. And then there are the less glamorous roles. The kitchen staff, for example, might overhear snippets of conversations during meal preparation, perhaps noticing a particular fondness for certain delicacies shared between the pharaoh and his latest amour. Imagine the hushed excitement, the careful sharing of juicy details among the cooks and bakers, a royal romance played out in the clatter of pots and pans. Did the pharaoh suddenly develop a passion for dates? It might not just be a change in palate, but a whispered sign of affection for a lady-in-waiting who happened to be from the date-growing region. Or perhaps a humble scribe, charged with documenting the pharaoh's decrees and correspondence, might find themselves unwittingly privy to a secret affair through a carelessly left-behind letter, a hastily erased entry, or an unusually lavish expenditure recorded for a particular individual. Their position offered them a unique insight, a bird's-eye view into the heart of the palace intrigues. A carefully written account, slightly embellished for future generations, might subtly suggest a clandestine connection or cleverly obscure a forbidden romance, depending on the scribe's allegiances and ambitions. The unintended consequences of these royal entanglements, as filtered through the actions and inaction of servants, were sometimes dramatic. A misplaced piece of jewelry might trigger jealousy and suspicion. A whispered word could ignite a scandal. A forgotten message could lead to a disastrous misunderstanding. These seemingly minor actions, played out in the background, often had a profound effect on the unfolding drama. It's tempting to view these servants as merely background players, but their roles were far more complex and significant than simple onlookers. They were the silent architects of many a royal romance, sometimes unwittingly shaping the course of history with a misplaced object or a careless word. Their lives intertwined with the lives of the pharaohs, their loves and their losses, their triumphs and their tragedies, offering a compelling, humanizing counterpoint to the grand narratives of royal power. So, next time you hear a tale of ancient Egyptian romance, remember the unseen players, the servants, the silent observers, the unwitting architects of love, betrayal, and everything in between. Their stories, though often hidden, are just as crucial to the whole picture, and perhaps even more intriguing. Now, close your eyes, let the gentle rhythm of my voice lull you to sleep, and dream of ancient secrets whispered in the palace halls. Now, let's delve into a rather fascinating aspect of ancient Egyptian court life, the art of seduction. Imagine, if you will, a world where power wasn't just wielded through armies and decrees, but also through whispered words, a knowing glance, a perfectly placed perfume. In ancient Egypt, charm and allure weren't merely pleasantries. They were potent tools, especially within the royal circles. Think of it as political maneuvering, but with a far more fragrant and intriguing approach. We don't have dating apps or reality TV to analyze the romantic strategies of pharaohs and their courtiers, but through art, literature, and the careful deciphering of hieroglyphs, we can get a pretty good sense of how seduction played a crucial role in navigating the treacherous currents of power. It wasn't just about winning a lover's heart. It was about securing alliances, consolidating power, and even influencing the very course of history. Consider the elaborate rituals surrounding royal weddings. These weren't just simple ceremonies. They were elaborate performances designed to reinforce the pharaoh's divine right to rule. The bride, often chosen for her lineage or strategic value, would be adorned in opulent jewelry, her beauty enhanced with kohl and fragrant oils. The whole spectacle was a carefully orchestrated seduction, not just of the pharaoh himself, but of the entire kingdom. It was a visual affirmation of the union and a powerful display of the couple's authority. But seduction wasn't limited to royal weddings. Think about the role of the harem. Often portrayed as a place of intrigue and jealousy, the harem was actually a complex social and political landscape. Within its walls, women, wives, concubines, servants, navigated power dynamics with remarkable skill. They used their charm, their intelligence, and their influence to gain favor with the pharaoh, and in doing so, often acquired significant power themselves. It wasn't always about romantic love. It was about strategic alliances and the subtle art of persuasion. A whispered word in the right ear, a carefully chosen gift, a flawlessly executed dance. These could all be potent tools in this delicate game of courtly intrigue. Now, you might be picturing dramatic scenes of backstabbing and open rivalry, but it wasn't always so overt. Ancient Egyptian literature, while scarce, offers glimpses into the more subtle forms of seduction. We see examples of women using their wit and intelligence to charm their way into positions of influence. Think of Nefertiti, the great royal wife of Ramses II. Her depictions in tombs and monuments showcase her beauty, but also her evident sophistication and power. Her allure wasn't just about physical attractiveness. It was about the aura of confidence and intelligence she exuded. Furthermore, the use of perfumes and cosmetics played a significant role. Egyptians were masters of perfumery, creating exquisite fragrances using ingredients like myrrh, frankincense, and various flowers. These weren't simply for personal adornment. They were carefully chosen to enhance one's allure and convey a specific image or message. The scent of a particular perfume could communicate wealth, status, and even a certain level of sophistication or allure. Imagine walking into a royal court, enveloped in a cloud of captivating fragrance, a silent statement of power and desirability. Even the visual arts offer intriguing clues. In countless depictions of pharaohs and their consorts, we see elaborate gestures, intimate poses, and subtle expressions that hint at the importance of attraction and charm. The way a hand rests on a shoulder, a shared glance across a crowded room, a perfectly poised smile. These seemingly insignificant details, when studied carefully, speak volumes about the social dynamics and the use of seduction in ancient Egyptian society. And let's not forget the power of the written word. Love letters, though rare, have survived. They offer precious insights into the emotional lives of these powerful figures, revealing a surprising level of vulnerability and intimacy that contradict the often rigid image we have of ancient Egyptian royalty. These letters, imbued with poetic language and evocative imagery, reveal a far more nuanced understanding of romance than we might expect. They highlight the fact that even in a world of pharaohs and gods, human emotions, love, desire, longing, held sway. So, as we drift off to sleep, imagine yourself transported to the opulent courts of ancient Egypt. Picture the clinking of jewelry, the murmur of conversations, the scent of exotic perfumes hanging heavy in the air. Envision the subtle dance of power, the art of seduction woven into the very fabric of royal life. It's a world of intrigue, charm, and a fascinating reminder that even in ancient times, the allure of a captivating personality could be a force as powerful as any army. Now, let those images gently fade as you slip into a peaceful and restful sleep. Now, as we gently drift towards the land of Nod, let's consider something rather remarkable: the enduring legacy of these royal love stories. We've explored the tangled webs, the passionate affairs, the political machinations, all woven around the love lives of Egypt's pharaohs. But why, millennia later, do these ancient romances continue to capture our imaginations? Why do we still find ourselves whispering about Nefertiti's beauty, or wondering about the true nature of Akhenaten and Nefertiti's unconventional relationship? It's not just the drama, you see. It's more than the scandalous affairs and the power plays. There's a certain timeless quality to these stories, a human element that transcends the vast gulf of time separating us from ancient Egypt. These weren't simply rulers maneuvering for power. They were people experiencing love, loss, jealousy, and ambition, emotions we still grapple with today. Think about it. The longing gaze in a painted portrait, the subtle hint of a smile on a carved relief. These glimpses into their lives spark our empathy. We see reflections of ourselves in their triumphs and their tragedies. Perhaps it's the sheer romance of it all. The idea of a powerful pharaoh surrounded by opulence and mystery, falling deeply in love, or perhaps cunningly manipulating someone from a completely different sphere of life. The forbidden romance, the secret rendezvous, the hidden messages carved into tomb walls, it all feels like a beautifully illustrated fairy tale, albeit one with a healthy dose of intrigue and political maneuvering. And who doesn't love a good fairy tale, especially one with a dash of forbidden fruit? And then there's the mystery. So much of what happened behind palace walls remains shrouded in the mists of time. We piece together fragments of information from fragmented papyri, half-destroyed tomb paintings, and enigmatic hieroglyphs. The gaps in the narrative, the unanswered questions, only serve to fuel our fascination. We're left to fill in the blanks ourselves, constructing our own versions of these ancient romances, each as unique and individual as the person telling the story. The enduring fascination also stems, perhaps surprisingly, from the artistic legacy of these royal relationships. The depictions of these pharaohs and their consorts are exquisite works of art. The artistry of their tombs, the grandeur of their statues, the delicate beauty of their jewelry, all serve as lasting testaments to the power and intensity of their connections. These artistic creations have survived for thousands of years, continuing to inspire artists, historians, and dreamers alike. Just imagine the skill and dedication of the artisans who meticulously crafted those intricate reliefs, those vibrant paintings, those breathtaking sculptures, all intended to immortalize the love, or at least the image of love, between these powerful figures. Moreover, these stories offer a fascinating glimpse into a culture vastly different from our own. The roles of women, the complexities of the royal family, the religious beliefs that intertwined with love and marriage. All these aspects provide a unique lens through which we can understand ancient Egyptian society. By studying these relationships, we can learn more about their social structures, their political systems, and their values. It's like peering through a keyhole into a world long gone, a world that somehow feels both alien and strangely familiar. And the familiarity is precisely what makes it so compelling. Think of the countless novels, films, and television shows that have been inspired by ancient Egyptian history. These narratives often center on royal love stories, drawing inspiration from the real-life dramas and romances that unfolded millennia ago. These adaptations serve as a testament to the enduring power of these tales to capture the imagination, transporting us back to a time of powerful pharaohs, beautiful queens, and intricate love triangles. They prove, more than anything, that these ancient stories hold a universal appeal, a timeless resonance that transcends cultural boundaries. So, as the moon casts its gentle glow and the world around you quiets, let these ancient love stories lull you into a peaceful slumber. Let the whispered secrets of pharaohs and their beloveds drift into your dreams. Let the echoes of their passions weave themselves into the tapestry of your sleep, a reminder that even amidst the grand sweep of history, the human heart, with its longing, its joys, and its sorrows, remains eternally the same. Sleep now, and may your dreams be filled with the ancient magic of Egypt's royal romances. So, we've journeyed through time together tonight, walked alongside remarkable figures, and witnessed moments that shaped our world. Let the echoes of these stories settle gently now, like the sun dipping below the horizon. Carry the quiet strength of those who came before you, their resilience a soft blanket wrapped around your thoughts. Let the weight of the day melt away, replaced by the calm stillness of the night. Breathe deeply, and let the peace of history's long slumber surround you. May the whispers of the past lull you into a tranquil sleep, filled with dreams as vast and wondrous as the ages themselves. Sleep well, and may your rest be deep and sweet.